Welcome back, everybody, to Top Tier Studios. This is episode 11, and we are going to be still working in our Ghostbusters themed area. In the past couple episodes, we're working on that interactive shooting ride that you're seeing on the left side of the screen right now. But we're actually going to be starting a new project within this area, and it's going to be a roller coaster. Yeah, we are making a new roller coaster for this park. It's going to be the second roller coaster so far, and this one is actually going to be a junior coaster, or a kiddie coaster, or family coaster, if you want to call it all those things as well. This one, it comes with the Ghostbusters pack. It is the Ghostbusters, or the Ghoster Coaster, or that's what I want to call it, but I think in game it's like the Ghoster, I don't even remember what it's called. It has something to do with the ghost. It has like the Slimer character on the front of the car there, all that good stuff. So it really kind of fits in well with this area and how I'm going to incorporate it into the area as a whole. It's going to be on the right side of the pathing, pretty much facing the way we are facing currently, and it's going to take up the majority of this area. And then we're going to be putting a fence along the pathing that's going to have a bunch of slime on it and stuff. I thought that would be a pretty cool element here. At the end of the episode, there will be a POV for this coaster. We pretty much get most of it done, and this will actually be one of the, if not the final episode for this Ghostbusters area, and we'll be moving on to our next area. Now, I'm not going to spoil it yet. I don't know exactly what area I want to move on to. I know like the next area that is going to, the area it's going to be in is right across from the city area that we had, like the diagonal path going back towards this Ghostbusters area. That's the area it's going to be in, but I don't know what the theme is yet. I have an idea on what I want to go there. I just don't know if that's the area I want to work on next. In terms of this layout, it's pretty simple. It's just a bunch of kind of spirals, and it goes pretty slow, I will say that. I did try multiple times to kind of fix the speed. I just really couldn't get it, and I didn't know what I was doing wrong with it. But in the end, it is like a family coaster, so I figured, you know what, speed really isn't the biggest thing. It's just something for them to do. It probably won't draw in the biggest crowds, although when I did complete this, I was kind of just testing it just to get the ending POV. So I opened up the park, and I opened the coaster back here, and I also opened the Ghostbusters interactive ride, and together they drew in a pretty big crowd, and along with that there was a pretty long line for this. And this coaster actually only runs one train, but it is enough. You can see here the train is massive. It's huge. It has like 16 rows or something like that, each of two, so that'd be 32 riders if it was 16 rows. So it does have a pretty good capacity, I would say, but it is only one train, so that is a little bit of a downfall to it. The queue line is also pretty short compared to the Ghostbusters interactive shooting ride that we have, or the Ghostbusters experience. So this is pretty much the layout. I'm just kind of fine tuning it now, making sure that it is all nice, and then we'll go on, make the queue and make the station, and then do a little bit of details, and we'll be done. This episode is a pretty average, I would say. Not as short as the last episode. Last episode was probably one of the shortest episodes we've had in this series so far, but this one is definitely one of the shorter ones, I guess. We've had pretty long ones, especially when we were working on our haunted house drop tower. That one was probably our longest one, but hopefully I don't have them going that long anyway. I don't really like making super long videos like that. Talking about this episode, though, we really don't have much to talk about right now, because all we're doing is creating this layout. I try to make my coasters as good as possible, and I also try and make them to the point where the people in the game will actually ride them. Now, that kind of does offset the roller coaster in a way, because I feel like the stats in game are a little bit kind of screwed, I guess you could say, like skewed. That's what I'm saying, not screwed, skewed. I just don't see them as accurate as they could be. So like the fear and excitement rating are super low for this coaster, but if you think about it, for super young kids, it could be actually a really, really big fear factor. So you never really know. It depends on whose writing is. That's how it affects the stats. So I mean, it could be a little bit of a harder thing to do. Anyway, this is pretty much the final layout that we have. Even though the stats aren't great, I think in the real world it would be a pretty fine roller coaster. Anyway, for families anyway. So now we are moving on to the queue line. So the queue actually, where you enter the station is all the way at the very front, and then you walk down all the way past the station, and I'm actually going through the queue backwards. You go down some stairs, and you're kind of actually still elevated from the ground. You're not on the ground while traversing this queue, and it's just slightly elevated. And then you're just going through a little bit of a zigzag, and then you finally hit the ground and you exit or enter to the actual pathing. So that's pretty much the queue, just in reverse. And then we also have this kind of building here. I was struggling a little bit to figure out what pieces I wanted to use. I will say that, but I actually decided gonna do this the firehouse. I think it's the firehouse, one of the firehouse walls anyway. It might be like the garage one, but that's the idea that I went for here. I just like the stone here. It made the most sense to me. So then I just covered up this little path right there, just so it didn't look all like holy, I guess you could say, not complete. So it makes it look complete. And then we're gonna go with this this roof here. I don't remember what this roof is. I used it at the very front entrance of the park, so it kind of reminds me of that. But when it's all said and done, I think it works with this build in general. Now, one of the most annoying things about this build was that I could not get the roof to go all the way over the pathing to the stairs. It had to be cut a little bit short, so that was probably one of the more like nitpicky, like I really didn't like it, but I had to leave it because it was the only thing that I could work, and you can get a really good view right there of that. So some things that we're doing for this station, we're giving it some pillars to make sure that the roof would actually be able to stay on, and we're using the Ghostbusters pillars, one of the pillars that we actually got from the pack. And then we're also going to be putting in some fences here. These are, I think, from like the classical set. They might actually just be, they look classical anyway, but they might actually just be from the base game. So that's going to be going in here. Really small fences. It really wouldn't stop anybody from falling, I would think. People could easily walk over them, just for aesthetics, is what I'm using them for here. And those will go around the whole station, and we should be good here as well. So after this, we'll be moving on to some extra work. I think the next thing that we're going to work on is the fences. And then one thing that I forgot to mention as like what I was saying that we're doing in this episode, we are actually going to be putting a facade in the back as well. It's going to be a little bit of a backdrop for the roller coaster. It'll give it a nice look in the back, but that's going to be one of the later things we do. So now we're going to move on to this fence. Now, this fence I think was probably one of the cooler parts of this build. I'm not gonna lie, I really like this fence. It's just a plain chain link fence, but they have a bunch of slime pieces in game, and I decided I was gonna use them for this build because this is the Slimer coaster. So why not use slime on the fences and all that? And also like the Ghostbusters, when you get hit with them, you get slimed and all that. So I decided, you know, it'd be pretty cool to just have slime all over the place on the fence. I think it would bring a lot more detail to it than just having a fence that's blocking out the whole coaster. And it also saves me from having to build a bunch of buildings to block out the coaster and make it look like it's all indoor, like if I wanted to make it indoor, and that could save me potentially a lot of time and a lot of resources too. So that allows me to go into more depth with some other big rides that we're going to be doing in the future. Wink wink, coming in the future. The next actual the next area we have will probably have another big indoor ride. So that's all to come, but it could actually help me in the long run. So that's the idea there. So we're just kind of putting random slimes here, drippings in some area. Like across the top there are some dripping slime, and then we're also going to be extending that fence on the other side, but I forgot to do that. I wanted to jump into this facade thing idea that I had going right here. So basically, it's pretty much the same idea as I did in the Ghostbusters interactive shooting ride, where it's just the wall, like the too high going back, or going down the stretch anyway. So I did this in the Ghostbusters ride, but it's not going to be as intricate where it's angled to one point to make it look like an optical illusion. This one is just a wall, and it's going to separate our dueling launch coasters that we have for our city area, and this Ghostbusters roller coaster. That was one of the big things that I wanted to make sure I had. Was I didn't want this ride to really be ruined by the other areas. I wanted to keep them separate, and it actually helps out with this the dueling coaster as well, because it kind of gives an area, like a set area for this, and people don't have to wonder like, oh, well, I guess I should have done something there. So I might do this off camera. I just might paint that grass that the dueling coaster's on. Might paint it like a concrete color, just to make it look like it's on, like, in the city almost, because we really didn't do too much scenery for that. And then this one will be, I think I'll keep this one grass, and we'll just have like some plants and trees going in throughout here. We'll do that near the very end of the episode as well, but I just figured, trees would kind of fit this just a little bit better. Kind of needs it in this area. But yeah, this facade's pretty much done. We're gonna actually copy and paste it, like each different wall set on the other side, so that it doesn't look like a black wall to the dueling coaster. It looks like an actual facade. And we connected it with the little shop fronts to the station as well, just to give it that extra bit of like detail to it. And these ones are gonna be too high. Instead of like two halves high, I guess, so one whole high, I guess you could say that. But I did that because I wanted to make sure that I don't know, I just didn't want to have it too much repeating, and I feel like if they were two full ones high, it would kind of obstruct the station. So instead I decided to do half high. And we also are going to put in a little bit of graffiti on those walls, which is a little something different that I haven't done yet in this game. So that's coming right here in a couple of seconds as we're working on that. And then that's pretty much almost it for this episode. I know we have a couple more minutes working on this. Switching these over, like copying and pasting it to the other side, so the other side kind of looked like it was like right, I guess you could say. It was a little bit of a challenge for this one because it wasn't all on the same axis, so I had to go into like the world change and I had to move it, and it really wasn't the easiest part, I guess you could say. So I just be moving it right there. And after this, we are going to finish that chain link fence on the other side so that people don't run into the lift hill, and then we should be good. We actually have to do a little bit of planting. I didn't go overboard with it. I was gonna make a huge like flower bed in the middle of the queue and all that, but I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna put in some trees, and I think that should be good enough for this ride, especially because the scenery that we have on the outside and how it looks with the Ghostbusters ride in the background as well. I think this area is pretty good as it goes. We might put a big planter in between the grass and the path and the Ghostbusters like facade that we have for the interactive ride. We might do that just because like that area is kind of looking a little bit plain. And something that I want to do in the next episode is create a like a Stay Puft gift shop, and that might go on the very corner. Depending either side, it'll be there. I really wanted to put that shop in here. That was the one thing that I wanted to make sure I got in here. Well, actually, all three of these things were both the interactive shooting ride, all of this stuff that we're putting in, I wanted to have in this area. I had this area pretty thought through. But anyway, we are pretty much hitting the end of this episode. We have a couple more trees to place in after we're working on this fence, and we should be done. So a POV will be coming up in a couple of seconds, but this episode is pretty much complete. I gave you my plan as well. We're moving to the next area pretty soon. So yeah, it should be sci-fi. Boom, you got the early access. Anyway, see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Peace.